Following on from my power rankings video yesterday, where I discussed for teams more generally, I want to now spend some time focusing on a number of players, veterans and rookies alike, that really made a significant impact over the opening weekend. Today, and moving forward each week, I'm going to shine a spotlight on some individuals who I thought were the most impressive at their respective roles during the opening weekend of the May Melee qualifiers. In this, my first Overwatch League Team of the Week. Before we get stuck into it though, I just want to explain how I plan to put together this OWL Team of the Week as we advance through the season. And also to quickly give credit to Danconia, who I saw upload a similar sort of idea yesterday as well as last season. He makes some really great content I recommend you check out, and I've linked his channel down in the description below. So, in terms of assembling this Team of the Week, I've decided that it will include the players who I thought impressed the most during a specific weekend of matches. I think this gives all the players across the league a fair chance of being featured, rather than being a team just made up of the best players in the league. On top of this, every week only 2 players from each role will be selected as starters, and I will also choose up to 3 wildcard or reserve players that can then be selected from any role to form a bench, bringing us to a total of 7 to 9 players. That said, I've decided to only split this by role and not specific positions to give me a little more flexibility in my choices. So some weeks you might see me pick one main tank and off tank, whereas other weeks both selections may come from the same position, for example both selections being off tank players. Personally, I think this is the best and fairest way to proceed, and also how I'll be moving forward today. But be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions about this system in the comments down below, and whether I should take a different approach in future weeks. Without further ado then, let's get underway, and I think we'll start with the damage role, where the first player I've selected for this Team of the Week is Leave of the Chengdu Hunters. Since his exploits on Team China a few years ago, Leave has been a player I've been very high on for a long time now, and this past weekend he showed off all his quality with some brilliant performances. On McCree notably, he came away with numerous highlight plays against the Valiant and Dragons, but more than that, a major reason for his inclusion here is because of how well he played on other heroes as well, with some brilliant displays on Sombra, Ashe and Tracer also, often giving the Hunters the edge needed during close neck and neck teamfights against Shanghai. He certainly was a key contributor to Chengdu's incredible opening weekend success, and in my mind I had to give him a starting spot in this Team of the Week roster. Alongside him though, from the Houston Outlaws, I had to put Happy, who had a monster weekend himself for the Texas outfit. Against both Dallas and the Shock, 2 teams that actually looked really good, he was outstanding. On McCree he went on a tear. I can't tell you the number of times he racked up 3Ks, 4Ks, and I think even 1 or 2 5Ks. And on a Houston team that left a superb impression after the opening weekend, he was clearly one of the standouts. A part of his play that I also think deserves some mention, aside from his unreal headshot accuracy, was the value he was able to get out of Deadeye. Compared to many other McCree players that played last week, I thought Happy was consistently able to get a tremendous amount out of the ultimate in terms of kills, rather than just as a zoning ability, often catching his opponents on flanks, or using it in combination with another ultimate like Gravitic Flux to completely swing teamfights in the Outlaws' favour. After last season and heading into this year, I did rate Happy very highly, and I expected the Houston DPS line of him and Dante to do really well this year. However, I didn't expect him to produce an MVP level performance against such tough competition week 1, and for that reason I don't think many of you will have a problem with me including him as a Team of the Week starter. For our first reserve though, I've given the Team of the Week award to Hisu from the Toronto Defiant. This man was clearly the Defiant's #1 performer last week, with some very dominant and clutch plays in his team's wins over the Titans and Reign. This is clearly shown in the statistics as well, where Hisu has done incredibly well for himself, ranking 1st in damage, 3rd in final blows, and 5th in solo kills. Even when Toronto struggled at the start of their series against Atlanta, I thought he went toe to toe with Kai, and demonstrated that he hasn't missed a beat since his time on the Fusion last year. Simply put, it was a very good week for the Defiant's main man, as he looks to be the key component towards this team achieving success moving forward. Now we turn our attention to the tank line of this Team of the Week, where aside from the 2 starters, I've also opted to make 2 further selections for the reserves. The first starter though is Gaga, who in my eyes was one of the 2 most impressive performers from any position last week. This guy was phenomenal all weekend, with strong displays across all the main tanks he played. His Winston and Bull in particular were unmatched in the APAC region, where he really showed a golfing class between himself and his opposite number Fate during the Shanghai series. I know everyone loves Eamon, but in just 1 week, Gaga has given us a look at what the Hunters can achieve and how successful they can be when they're playing a little more in line with the meta, fronted by an elite main tank, one that arguably plays Bull to an even higher level than Eamon did previously. What I really appreciated though from his play was not only his ability to take space and dominate the front line, but also to ensure that he got value out of every engagement he took. Even if he did go a little deep into the enemy backline, he only did this after making sure his death came alongside the deaths of 2 or more of his opponents, ensuring that his team would still win the teamfight without him. To be honest, I could keep going on, but hopefully I've made it very clear how well I think he played, and there's absolutely no way he could have missed out on this team of the week. That said, the starter I have alongside him is the other player who I thought had the most impressive performance this weekend, and that's Houston's Django. Against arguably some of the best main tanks in the game, in Fearless, Super and Smurf, Django was excellent, putting on a rookie display that in my opinion was only matched by Gaga last week, in terms of its brilliance. This Chad was everywhere during these games, with his impact and kill presence being a huge reason why the Outlaws were able to come away from their first week of matches with 2 wins. We knew his rhyme was good in contenders, but I was one of many who still had doubts about his other main tank heroes entering the Overwatch League this season. This has all but been dispelled though, after a top showing on Winston especially. Should he continue to play at this level, he could lead Houston to a very successful year, and without a doubt he clearly deserves to be a part of this opening team of the week as the other starting tank selection. In regard to the first of my 2 tank reserves though, I've gone with Fearless from the Dallas Fuel. Now Django may have just had the better series than him during the Battle of Texas, but don't think for 1 second that Fearless didn't go down without a fight. Personally, I thought he had a really big showing during both of Dallas's matches, often being the main reason alongside Sparkle why the Fuel were able to take the Outlaws to map 5, and with Fearless proving that despite moving team, he was still playing up to the level he exhibited last year. His performance only looks better when you remember how Django tank diffed his shock opponents, as well as by how well Fearless continued to play into their next game against the Gladiators, where again, he was a key contributor towards what was one of the most impressive upset wins of week 1. And it's for those reasons that I wanted to include him here. My other reserve though is an off-tank player who certainly enjoyed a successful return to action, and that is the Toronto Defiance Michelle. To me, it was quite clear whilst watching Toronto play that the clear standout performer besides Hisu, and the most comfortable player for the Defiant all weekend was Michelle, who certainly produced some very strong displays for his new team following what was quite a difficult season last year on Seoul. His inclusion as a reserve in this team of the week, however, comes as a result of looking at his statistics, where Michelle surprisingly excels. Not only does he lead tank players in terms of eliminations and final blows, but he also leads the league itself in final blows, and he's achieved this whilst having quite a low death rate as well, suggesting that his crazy kill involvement isn't coming at all at the cost of his own life. When the eye test is then backed up by the statistics, you know a player has to be doing well, and with this obviously being the case here, I thought Michelle deserved the recognition, hence his spot here. To finish off this team of the week, we now have to discuss the support players, and this week I've decided to go with Monk from the Chengdu Hunters and Crimzo from the Houston Outlaws, largely for similar reasons. Both enjoyed very strong opening weekends at the flex support position, with their play on Ana and Zen particularly shining. The pair consistently hit very impactful bio-nades on Ana, and also came up with some very clutch kills during their respective series. Monk completely dominated the duel against Izayaki during the Hunters series against the Dragons, a very noteworthy achievement given how highly Izayaki is rated at their position. Crimzo meanwhile came up with some very important plays himself during Houston's wins over the Fuel and Shock. One that sticks to my mind being the opening pick of the Outlaws' great teamfight comeback at the end of Havana that would ultimately lead to them winning the map. Perhaps the biggest reason though why I selected this pair for the support position, however, is because of how well they played in coordination with their main tanks and DPS teammates. Whether it was following a Bionade or Discord Orb, using a Nano Boost, or simply through focus fire, a lot of the success of both Django and Gaga, as well as Leaf, can be traced directly back to their coordination with and around both Crimzo and Monk. In many ways therefore, I think their impact is far more significant than many of us had initially realised, and in the end, that's why I determined that they deserve their spots here. So there you have it, my first Overwatch League 2021 team of the week. A DPS pairing of Leave and Happy, a tank line of Django and Gaga, a support duo of Monk and Crimzo, and lastly the reserves of Hisu, Fearless and Michelle. I think it's only right though for me to also quickly make note of some honourable mentions, who I did consider for this team of the week. Players like Elsa and Juby were considered given how much they exceeded their own personal expectations that many of us had set them this pre-season. But for me they didn't stand out as much as others, hence their exclusion in the end. Of course, most of the other players from the Houston Outlaws, Chengdu Hunters or Toronto Defiant could have been included also. Sparkle enjoyed a really strong weekend, with his vastly improved tracer play deserving a lot of praise. Yaki, Gargoyle and Gangnam Jim were certainly in the mix after being major players in Florida's fantastic 2-0 start to the season. As for the Philly players, they were also brilliant, but I felt they produced more of an overall team effort rather than having one or two standout performers, which is why they miss out. although I would still give extra credit to their recent arrivals of Rascal, Hotbar and Toby, who all hit the ground running with their new team. These are just my thoughts and opinions though, and I'd love to hear who makes your own Team of the Week down in the comments below. But on that note, we've reached the end of my first Overwatch League 2021 Team of the Week. If you have enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Discord if you haven't already. Until next time though, I want to say a big thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.